through June 30th. And in July, he's going to be stepping into being a senior minister in Baltimore. So it is my great hope that what he has practiced here is just feeding him and uplifting him as he steps into that. And, I've certainly felt confident in leaving our center in his hands when I've been away, and we just love him. We love him very much. So please join me in welcoming him today as our speaker.
So how is everyone today?
Good. Great.
Like for real, I can't believe at this point that this is like turning into a weekly. I'm getting to the point where I think y'all like me asking you this question 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. Let's try this again. Knowing that you're light, you just heard a beautiful song. Some of you even sang along. How are you today?
Great.
Okay, that's much better. So, from this place of greatness, what we're going to talk about today is this great thing called the law of attraction. Anybody in here ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Anybody in here? Anybody that's never heard of it? Okay, so law of attraction. Now, if I were to quiz you, and ask you, give me a definition, an explanation, a summary, a something of law of attraction, and you don't have to answer this, think to yourself. Do you feel comfortable enough saying what law of attraction is? Just marinate, think to yourself. And the reason I'm specifically asking you this is because what I have been noticing for several years now within the New Thought community is this watered down, weaker energy of this light that Delilah spoke of. It's like we have this spiritual dimmer switch, and rather than shine too brightly, we turn it from a 10 down to about a 5, maybe a 4.3. Because, God forbid we shine as magnificently as we are. So, we talk about the law of attraction, and part of this idea of the law of attraction is mental equivalence. What is the mental equivalent? Because that which you hold in consciousness, in Science of Mind, anybody, if you ever look at the Science of Mind textbook, it's actually about that thick. But anyhow, in the back, there's an appendix that's about that thick, and there are some charts and graphs in there, and things that break down what's soul, what's spirit, what's form, etc. And the idea that in the upper area of that V, right, is the seed. And then in the center section where the 2 lines are, then there's the soil. And then the bottom is when the plant grows, right? So in thought, and then it comes into the soil, and then it comes into form. So the thoughts that we're thinking are created. And if we're not really clear on something as simple as a definition or an explanation of what the law of attraction is, then we're probably not going to be very clear on how do I put it into use. In much the same way, if I don't know that there's a law of aerodynamics, or of buoyancy, then I may jump in the water and think I can swim however I want to swim. And I'm going to sink to the bottom, and it's not going to work. So I have to understand that if I want to stay on top of the water, whether it's doggy paddle, whether it's backstroke, whatever it is, then I have to do it in a particular way. Just because certain things fly doesn't mean I can go to the top of this building, flap my arms, take a leap, and go from one side of the street to the other side of the street. It doesn't work that way. I'll go from the top of the building to the sidewalk. That's what will happen. So understanding this thing about law is extremely important, especially when we're talking about the law of attraction. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the Trinity, but I spoke about the Trinity as being 4 things rather than 3 things. So getting very clear on what am I thinking? What am I speaking? See, if you never really are sure what you're thinking, ask somebody, get in a conversation with somebody and ask them to just pay attention to how I speak. And then at the end of the conversation, ask them to tell you anytime that you talk about scarcity or lack or fear or anything that you don't want to create. Myrtle Fillmore, one of the co-founders of the Unity movement, says, and I'm paraphrasing, never talk about anything that you do not want to see show up in your life. Never talk about anything that you do not want to show up in your life. Now that can be a very great challenge, because then when I'm experiencing whatever I'm experiencing, how do I go to a therapist, a counselor, a teacher, a mentor, a friend, and speak about this thing that I don't want to have happen? But so we have this grace period in there where we are able to unburden ourselves with it. But see, what we tend to do is what, in my former Christian days, what we would do is we would talk about whatever your issue, problem, thing is, right? Take it to the altar of God, give it to God, and then go about your way. But see, what we tended to do as Christians, and what I noticed that we do in New Thought as well, is we give it to God, and then we'll start to walk away, and we'll say, but what if? Well, what if God? Because Emma Curtis Hopkins talks about the only God you can ever understand is the God of yourself. The more you know of yourself to be divine, to be aware of the presence of the divine as you, is the degree to which you are going to know that which is the divine. Now, let's play with why is that so? If I ask everybody in here, for those who may not know her, but if I say, right now, point at Deborah. Do that right now for me. Point at Deletta. Point at yourself. See, that's very easy. But if I say point at God, see, Amy knows, right? But for the we're like, there's a part of us that's not sure. Well, is this presumptuous for me to do this? There's still a part of our minds that feel that this is like, that's a little too much. No, it's not. Our teaching says we are individualized manifestations, incarnations of the one. That means everything that it is, we are. So what are we thinking in terms of what we want to create? What are we talking about? What is the emotion that's connected to that? And then what are we doing? When we talk about practitioners and prayer, treat and then move your feet. Pray about it and then be about it. Don't just pray. How many in here have ever gone out on a date? Friday night, it's time to get ready. Do you beautify yourself? Do you make yourself more attractive, more handsome? Because you're getting ready to go out on a date. How do you make yourself more attractive? What are the things that we do? Just think for a second. How am I making myself more attractive? And what does that even mean, to make yourself more attractive? Does it mean putting on a mask, a false face, a face of, I'm going to order the salad because I don't want him to know how I really eat. I don't want her to know how I really eat. I don't want them to know how I really eat. So I'm going to order the smallest, most petite thing, and I'm going to just nibble. Rather than doing like Tracy, like, look, it's chicken. It's finger food. Not really, but it's okay, Tracy, we understand. Soup is not meant to be, okay, but the idea is, what do we do to make ourselves more attractive? Because the funny thing is, no matter what you do to your hair, your clothes, whatever, cologne, perfume, whatever, ultimately, isn't that just building on top of the attractiveness, the beauty, the magnificence that you already are? Because you can do whatever you're going to do. If you don't feel beautiful already, you don't feel attractive already, then is it really going to make a difference? No. And how many of us have said, speaking of some famous folks, I'm not going to say any names, but some famous folks, and we'll say, oh yeah, outwardly, she's gorgeous. Outwardly, he's the bomb. But their personalities are not attractive. So see, it's not just about this surface thing. And the way we become attractive to another person is the same way we become attractive to money, attractive to health, attractive to well-being, attractive to prosperity, attractive to all the good and great things that this universe is and has for us. If we are not making ourselves attractive in the same way, now keep in mind what I said was, you do not beautify yourself to make yourself attractive. You do whatever you're doing to add on to what is already there. You can't be more of God. Like there's no amount of prayer, there's no amount of meditation, there's no amount of singing, sorry, don't hit me. There's no, that's going to make you more divine, sacred, and holy. We sing because we are. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm God. It's not even that I'm singing because I'm God. I'm singing because it is God singing itself as me. When we step into that, there is nothing to be drawn to us. Because this law of attraction thing makes us think, if I pray enough and I meditate enough and I vision board enough, then the universe is going to be like, oh, this is your FedEx order? Oh, that's what you want. Let me go out and get it and bring it to you. It's not the way it works. It's not like a waiter. Even though I know people with The Secret and stuff have made it like God is this divine waiter that is waiting to take our orders and go fill the order and bring it back to us. That's separation. That's creating the idea that there's God and me. And I give God my order, and God goes and gets, and God brings it to me. There's only one. Only one power and only one presence. If you are light, then where is there's me and there's the light. So there's one reason why, and this is just me, there's one reason why I don't like anymore the song, This Little Light of Mine. Because the light, I am light, it can't be a little light. I am the light. And Yeshua said, I am the light and the way. And what is true of him has to be true of us as well. So the moment we, in thought, in word, in feeling, and in action, become what we want, then it has no choice but to show up. We become the right and perfect partner. We become the right and perfect millionaire, the right and perfect musician, the right and perfect author, the right and perfect teacher, the right and perfect. We become that. And the thing is, or healthy. The thing is, so some of you have heard, so I'm experiencing this thing with my spine. Part of it's a herniated disc. Part of it, which I just found out, is part of it is I'm bleeding into my spine. Don't know what that means, but apparently something in my spine has sprung a leak. Whatever. So the idea is, and could it kill me? Yep. And do I care? No, because I know that I cannot die. If this goes, okay, whatever. That's what it is. Do I want it to? No, because I still got a lot of stuff I want to do. But the idea is, how do I talk about it? When I'm feeling the pain that makes it hard for me to shrug a shoulder or raise my hand, how do I talk about it? When I've just written a check knowing that, wow, that's going to put a huge dip in the... Thank you so much for having the opportunity to be able to pay. And I'm writing this in the memo. Put a little heart, a little smiley face, and a little star. And then send it off with gratitude. How do we talk about health and well-being? Because it's easy to think about it. But if we're not talking about it, then it's only one part of the equation. How do we feel about it? Because is it possible to feel, because this gets people, well, great, how am I supposed to feel happy about something that I don't have? Okay, so you're online and you see this thing come across your thing, enter now for a chance to win an all-expense paid trip to wherever, Shangri-La, wherever it is. And you're like, I'm entering this. And you send it. And they send you an email back in 3 days telling you you won. Now the trip is next year though. But you won. But the trip is next year. what do? You get up and do the happy dance. I'm going somewhere next year. You get up and you do the happy dance. Even though you're not there yet, it's a year away. A lot of things can happen in a year. You celebrate now because you feel the gratitude of it now. Farmers plant seeds to build crops, to harvest crops, to feed people. They are planting these with the intention of what it is as food to feed. They're not, let us plant, let us do a vision board, let us cross our fingers, let us pray. It's not what they're doing. They're planting with full expectation. If I plant 100, 80 will grow. And I'm grateful for this, and I do the work to make sure that I am tending the soil. I am planting great seeds. And I know that the harvest will be that as well. So coming back to law of attraction, mental equivalent. What do you believe? Last Sunday I was at Celebration Center in Falls Church, and I challenged them to get really, really clear on what they believe. So just as an example, in the Science of My magazine, in the front of the magazine, it has the 11 we believes. And one of them says, we believe that heaven is within and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. What does that mean? Because see, if we don't know what it means, we can't live it. If we don't know how, because I don't care how great the chocolate souffle is, if I don't put the recipe together, it stays words on a page, ingredients in a cabinet. I have to know, I don't care what musical notes are on the page, if we never play them, we never hear them. Why did Maya Angelou's teacher tell her, Maya, you don't love poetry. You can't truly love it until you can speak it, till you hear and feel the words rolling off of your tongue, through your mouth, across your lips. That means you have to embody it. You have to become one with the poetry, one with the music. Are we becoming one with whatever it is that we are calling the divine, God, source, the universe? Because see, we can talk about the law of attraction all we want, but when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of, do I believe what I'm saying I believe? To the degree where I am being about it, not just lip service, but being sacred, holy, and divine. Got into a conversation with a couple of people recently about DC Comics and Marvel Comics and stuff, and Black Panther came up, and Doctor Strange came up, and Peter Parker came up, Spider-Man, and a whole bunch of things. And so, listening to everything that they were saying, I turned around and said, so at what point, we'll use Superman as the example for right now. At what point does Superman say, I know I'm Superman? Keeping in mind, Kal-El, that person that became Clark Kent, was born on another planet. He arrived here as Superman. He arrived here with his powers and abilities. Batman learned his. Peter Parker was bitten by a spider and developed his. Diana was born on the Amazonian island. She was born, created as an Amazon. Kal-El landed as an alien. At what point did they step into and say, this is who I am? At what point do you say, this is what I'm here to do? And then do it. So if we're going to say, we are sacred, we are holy, we are magnificent, we are divine, are you putting on the full armor of that divinity? Are you bearing that sign upon your chest that says, this is who I am. This is what I am. This is why I am. Because if we're going to acknowledge that there is only one power and one presence, showing up in, through, and as us, then God chose to show up as you, as each and every one of us. There is no accident. There is no, I'm God, give me that magic coin. Let's see what we're going to create. It's a practitioner. It's not what happens of itself. Even way back when I was a Christian, and it would say, and God said, let there be light, and in the beginning, blah, 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 and God said, blah, blah. And I said, well, if there was nothing before, because it was formless and void, there was nothing except for God. So out of God, because you can't create something out of nothing. If there's nothing, then there's nothing. But God is somethingness. And so from the somethingness that it was, an idea was formed. And God said, and then there's word, and then feeling, and it was, and it is good. Even in that teaching, it's saying, this is what you are, and you're good. But do we live and move and have our beingness knowing that we are good? And I'm not talking about the survey sentimentality of, like, Betty and I were recently talking about the royal wedding yesterday. And the bishop gave this amazing talk about love. And one of the things he said is, it's not this sentimental stuff. That's not love, not real love, because that will change as the wind changes. Real love is an oak tree, grounded and anchored, standing against the wind when the wind tries. No, stop. No. Real love is powerful, not, well, it's sweet on Monday and bitter on Tuesday. And that love is what we are. So if it's what we are we walking knowing that that's what we are? Are we talking knowing that that's what we are? Are we creating the mental equivalent in our minds that say, even though I'm experiencing this? Because one of the things that Ernest Holmes talks about is, principle is not bound by precedent. So just because this stuff happened in the past, I was an abused child. In the past, I hated myself. In the past, I wanted to die. In the past. Now, if we were still living based upon that, then I would be a miserable, self-loathing, wretched, Ebenezer Scrooge of a person. Bah, humbug. Like that would be me. And we know it's not. So, whatever happens in the past is in the past. But why are we living there or there? Past or future? The oh no's and the regrets and the and then the what ifs of, but what if I don't get the job? What if I don't get in the school? What if I don't get the relationship? What if I don't get the money? What if I don't get, what if, but what if you do? What if you do? Just entertaining the idea. Our imagination is an amazingly powerful spiritual tool. But what if you do? What if you get exactly what you want? And that scares a lot of people because we have, one of our phrases in our culture is, be careful what you wish for. Because you just might get it. And so it causes us to pause and like, well, do I really want it? Because I don't know. And we run from our own good because we're not sure. Rather than understanding that, I think it was Mark Twain who said, one of the great things, and I'm paraphrasing this, one of the great things about being human is we get to change our minds at any time. So if I say I want this relationship and then I get in it and I don't, much appreciated, but it's not working, I go about my business. Whatever it is, we get to change our mind. We're not bound by it like it's the Ten Commandments. Amy, thou shalt, for the rest of time, play this character in this play. Oh, no. Not according to my casting agents. No. We get to change our minds. But we have to know what the mind is well enough to know. So, excuse me, one of the things that Deborah read was about the human mind, right? But keep in mind, there's the human mind, the human experience of how we experience our mind, but there is also the divine mind. And both of them exist within us right now. And we say there is one mind, that mind is God's mind. That mind is, has, is being, is doing everything that I say I desire and deserve. And the moment I surrender to letting it be, then my life becomes that which I've set into motion, consciously set into motion. Are we willing to set into motion this consciousness of greatness and joy? And I have, and I am, and I am ever becoming greater and greater. Let's pray. Anchoring ourselves in this breath, knowing that this breath is breathing itself as us, we surrender. And so from this place of surrender and gratitude and simply being in the present, I speak these words, knowing that there is only one power, one presence, that called Source, the Tao, the one mind, the thing itself, or God. There is only one. And knowing that it is all there is, then it must be showing up right here, right now, as the one speaking these words about itself. And knowing that these are the words of Spirit, speaking about itself, placing these words back into the law of itself. I know that it is already done. Because they came from God, they are placed back into God. They are spoken through an incarnation of God. How could they be anything other than whole, perfect, complete? So what I speak is a word knowing that right here, right now, everyone in this room is an attractive force for the highest and best. Whether that highest and best is health and well-being. Whether that highest and best is joy and passion and bliss. Whether that highest good is simply knowing how magnificent, how simply beautiful, how simply perfect each and every one of us are right now. Knowing this, breathing this, allowing this to be breathed as that which is God is attractive. That which God is whole. That which God is perfect. That which God is complete. And that which God is, I am. Yes. And what is true for me must be true for everyone in this room. There is only one. The infinite, magnificent, joyous I. And so from this place of the I, words flow, thoughts flow, feelings flow, and actions follow suit. That which is planted in the soil of the law must come back to us, full and overflowing. Knowing this, I know it is done. Knowing this, I release it. Knowing this, I simply say, Amen, and so it is.
Amen, and so